My name is Naomi Carter. I'm 44 years old, and I'm a writer and researcher in Georgia. What I'm about to share with you is a near-death experience that completely changed my life. During that moment, Jesus revealed to me a shocking truth about the real origins of the Black people, something that challenged everything I thought I knew. I saw, felt, and lived a reality that transformed my view on history, identity, and the spiritual connection of this people with the divine. But before we dive into this journey, tell me, where are you watching from? I want to feel this closeness with you, even though we may be miles apart. And don't forget to like and comment what you thought of this story. Let's keep a respectful space for exchanging ideas, as there's much for us to reflect on together. Get comfortable and open your mind to this experience. Now let's begin. It was on August 4th, 2022, that my life changed forever. I had been struggling with physical and emotional exhaustion that no one could explain. An overwhelming tiredness, constant pain, and a feeling that something inside me just wasn't right. Doctors ran tests, but the results always came back inconclusive. And day after day, I felt weaker, more drained, as if I was losing something essential within me. That night, I sat on the living room couch, talking with my husband about the day, the kids, trivial things. Everything seemed normal. Until suddenly, a wave of weakness overtook me. My vision darkened. The sound around me disappeared. And then everything went black. What happened next is impossible to describe with earthly words. In an instant, I was there, at home, surrounded by the people I loved. In the next moment, I was no longer there. I found myself in a vast and indescribable space, where even the light seemed to have life. The air around me shimmered, pulsed, enveloping me with a peace so intense it made all my worries disappear in the blink of an eye. And then, I saw him. Jesus stood before me. His robe shone as if made of stars, and his gaze pierced my soul with a tenderness I had never felt before. All pain, all fear, all doubt vanished. I stood before a presence that contained all the answers, all truth, all love that ever was and ever will be. He watched me for a moment, without saying a word. And then, with a voice that seemed to echo within my very being, he spoke. "Naomi, you did not come here by chance." In that moment, 1,000 questions exploded inside me. What was happening? Was I dead? Was it a dream? But before I could utter a single word, Jesus began to speak. His voice was soft, yet carried an indescribable strength. Every syllable seemed to vibrate within my chest, as if he wasn't just speaking to me, but engraving his words in my soul. "There is something you need to see, Naomi. Something that has been distorted for centuries." My heart raced. A strange sensation overtook my body, or rather, what was left of it in that place. It was then that the scene around me changed. In the blink of an eye, that celestial light gave way to images that projected like living visions before me. It was as if I were watching history unfold before my eyes, without filters, without distortions. And then, Jesus showed me something that would forever change how I saw the world. The first thing Jesus revealed to me was a truth that many had distorted over the centuries. "Have you heard of the curse of Canaan?" he asked, with a deep and understanding gaze. My heart tightened. Yes, I knew that story. Since I was little, born and raised in the church, I had often heard that Black people were descendants of Ham and carried a curse upon themselves. But then, Jesus looked deep inside me and said firmly, "This is a lie that was used to justify oppression. The truth has always been before the eyes of all, but few have wanted to see it." Suddenly, I was engulfed by a wave of knowledge. It was as if a veil was being ripped from my mind, and for the first time, I saw everything with clarity. The real story had been written in the Bible all along. Noah's curse did not fall upon Ham, but upon Canaan, his son. The curse was not upon a race, but upon a specific people from antiquity, who followed paths of disobedience. However, over the centuries, many distorted this truth to justify slavery, segregation, and pain. It was as if the weight of centuries of lies was dissolving in that instant. Everything I believed about the origin of Black people had been built upon a misinterpretation, a deliberate mistake created to maintain control and fear. I felt my eyes fill with tears. How many had suffered because of this lie? How many lives had been marked by the pain of a false curse? Jesus gently held my hands and said, "It is time for the world to know the truth." My heart was still racing as Jesus led me to a new vision. The images before me changed, and suddenly, I found myself before an ancient, majestic, powerful civilization. I saw kingdoms built on wisdom, strength, and spirituality. I saw vibrant cities, grand monuments, and people who carried a deep connection to the divine. Jesus then said, "Naomi, what you were taught about the Black people is far from the truth. Now I will show you who they really are." He pointed to the visions before me, and I saw Cush, Mizraim, and Put, the sons of Ham. Their descendants formed some of the greatest civilizations in human history, societies that flourished with intelligence, science, art, and spirituality. The kingdom of Cush, Jesus continued, was a powerhouse that walked side by side with Egypt. They were kings, builders, guardians of knowledge and wisdom. The scenes before me were vivid and intense. I saw the grandeur of the kingdom of Nubia, saw the pyramids of Meroe rising before my eyes, and saw people writing, studying, teaching, building a legacy that would echo for generations. "What have they done with this history?" I asked, with a lump in my throat. "Why doesn't the world know this truth?" Jesus looked at me, and in his expression, there was deep sorrow. Because the truth was hidden. The glory of these peoples was transformed into forgetfulness. Their identity was distorted so that they wouldn't know who they really are. I felt a chill run through my body. The entire narrative I had learned about the origin of Black people was wrong. They were never a cursed people. They were, in fact, a nation of strength, wisdom, and divine purpose. "They carry a sacred heritage, Naomi," Jesus said, "and it is time for the world to remember." I was stunned, emotional, and angry all at once. How had so many people spent their lives believing such a cruel lie? "But Jesus," my voice trembled, "if they carry this sacred heritage, why have they suffered so much? Why were they enslaved, persecuted, and treated as if they were less?" Jesus took a deep breath, and then another vision opened before me. I saw enormous ships cutting through the ocean, crammed with chained people, forcibly taken from their lands. I saw children being torn from their mothers' arms, men being whipped, women forced to carry impossible burdens. The pain was so intense I could hardly bear to watch it. The suffering seemed endless. Then Jesus placed a hand on my shoulder and said with sadness, "The human heart is capable of great love, but also great evil." The desire for power and control made many choose to distort the truth to justify oppression. "But listen carefully, Naomi." He looked directly into my eyes. "They tried to erase these people, but they failed. They tried to destroy them, but they could not, because there is something within them that can never be taken away." In that moment, I saw a radiant light within every man, woman, and child who endured the suffering of slavery. A light that not even chains could bind, nor pain could erase. It was the divine spark, the unshakable strength of resistance, faith, love, and connection to something greater. "They carry within them the fire of eternity," Jesus continued. "And no matter how much they tried to smother this light, it still shines. It will always shine." As I absorbed those words, a new vision formed before me. This time, it was not scenes of pain and suffering, but of overcoming, courage, and resistance. I saw men and women rising, even after being knocked down countless times. I saw communities rebuilding, families strengthening, culture, faith, and identity being preserved even in the most cruel and inhuman conditions. I saw voices rising against injustice. I saw abolitionists, spiritual leaders, visionaries who faced empires and challenged centuries of oppression so that the truth could be told. Jesus pointed to those images and said, "Even when they tried to silence them, they sang. Even when they tried to break them, they stood firm. Even when they were denied, they kept creating, teaching, and leading. This is not a cursed people, Naomi. This is a blessed, strong, and unbreakable people." My heart tightened. What I had once seen as a cycle of pain and suffering, I now saw as a story of power and resilience. "But why, Jesus?" I asked. "Why did they have to carry such a heavy burden?" He looked at me with deep compassion and replied, "Because the light they carry has always bothered those who chose to live in darkness." In that moment, everything made sense. The suffering of the Black people was not a divine punishment, but the consequence of the greed and fear of those who always wanted to control the truth. But despite everything, they were never defeated. And now it was time for the world to know this. The visions continued. Now I saw ancient African civilizations flourishing. I saw temples, libraries, centers of study, places where knowledge was cultivated and shared. Jesus then said, "The truth has always been here, Naomi. But they chose to erase it so that this people wouldn't know who they truly are." I saw wise leaders, fearless warriors, masters of knowledge and spirituality. They were not merely survivors. They were creators, innovators, chosen for something greater. My chest filled with something new: pride, respect, certainty. Jesus looked at me and said, "Now you understand. They were not forgotten by God. They were prepared for a time like this." I felt a lump in my throat. How many had grown up believing they had no value? That they were just the result of a mistake or a punishment? Jesus continued, "The time for restoration has come. The truth will be revealed, and those who tried to hide it can no longer deny it." The images changed. I saw young people discovering their true history, reclaiming their identity, finding purpose. I saw the strength of a people who, despite everything, were still standing. Jesus stared at me firmly and said, "They need to know. You need to tell." And in that moment, I understood my purpose. Suddenly, everything started to dissipate. The light around me became more distant, and the sensation of floating gave way to something denser, heavier. I was returning. My mission was not over yet. The last thing I saw was Jesus looking at me with love and saying, "Now go, share what you have seen, let the truth be known." When I opened my eyes, I was back. The doctors told me that I had been clinically dead for more than 12 minutes. But I knew I had lived something that no test could explain. Now I ask you, how many truths have been taken from us? How many generations grew up without knowing their own history? How many times were lies used to justify pain and injustice? And most importantly, if this truth finally comes to light, what will we do with it? Because now there is no denying it. The Black people were never cursed. They were chosen, strengthened, prepared for a greater purpose. And if you're hearing this now, it's no coincidence. Whether you're Black or not, this truth invites you to something greater. It calls us to justice, to recognition, and to the restoration of what was lost. The final question is, what can we learn? We can learn that no matter how hard they try to divide us, we are one people, one creation, loved by the same God. We can learn that the truth always finds a way to emerge, no matter how long it has been buried. We can learn that our worth was never defined by what they said about us, but by who we always were: strong, resilient, and divinely chosen. And above all, we can learn about love. If there's one thing this experience taught me, it's about the love of God. A love that doesn't depend on color, origin, or position, but on the essence of who we are. A love that finds us where we are, whether in pain, doubt, or darkness. It's a love that never abandons us. Even when we feel lost, God is there. Even when the world tells us we are not enough, He reminds us that we are precious. Even when the difficulties seem unbearable, His love sustains us. Because God's love is infinite, unbreakable, and unchanging. Nothing can separate it from us. Not our mistakes, not our failures, nor what they tried to make us believe. From the beginning, He called us by name, loved us even before we were born. And this is the greatest truth of all. You are loved. You always have been, and always will be. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you won't miss more content like this. May God bless you and keep you, and may you have an open heart to everything He has for you. See you in the next video.